Hi and welcome to a new video. My name is Maira and today we're sewing a little Easter basket like this, and I will guide you step by step through the instructions and show you how to sew it. So whether you're a beginner or a little bit more advanced sewer, you should be able to make this basket. You can find the pattern via the link in the information box in my webshop, as well as all the fabrics and sewing accessories you need. But you can also just take some leftovers fabrics and create some fun little Easter basket that are perfect like a present, as a decoration, or for the Easter egg hunting for the children. I hope I could explain everything good and easy to understand. English is not my native language, so please keep that in mind. I'm a German one living in Sweden. The pattern is available in English, Swedish and German. So yeah, you can also find some written instructions, but I hope I can show you a little bit in this video how to sew this basket make it easy to understand and to follow. I will choose some woven cottons for my basket and will quilt it a little bit. But when you want a little more sturdy basket and that it really stands up, choose fabrics like linen fabric or canvas fabric. But I'm using some woven cottons. I will use this printed one for the outside of my basket, and then I will use this checkered one for the inside basket. You will also need some interfacing for your handle. I use Vlieseline H250, but when you really want it to stand up and hold the shape, you should probably take an interface that is even harder and has a little bit more structure. And then I will use some wadding. I use the Vlieseline H630. That is a volume fleece that you can iron on your fabric, and that makes it a little bit more easy because it just sits in place. You need about 25 centimeters of the fabrics. But if you want to wash your fabrics before, make sure to order enough because they can shrink a little bit. But you don't need to do that for a little basket. But if you want, just keep that in mind. And now we will come to the pattern assembling and printing part. You can find the pattern in my online shop natursaga.com or via the link in the information box. And you can download the pattern. It will come as a PDF file and is made for A4 paper size. You will just print your pattern and make sure to choose actual size or scale it to 100%. Make sure to not choose fit to page when printing. And the first page also has a little measuring square where you can just double check if your paper has the right size. Now the basket is not the biggest problem, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger. But if you want it real in size, you should measure and see if your printer printed the correct size. The instructions will come in 3 different languages, in English, German and Swedish, and the pattern includes all languages in one file. The pattern includes 4 pages and you just print them, and then you need to assemble them. You do not need to cut anything off the pages, you will just place them next to each other and tape them. You do not need to be concerned with this little white border because a lot of home printers can't print to the edge of the paper. So don't be worried about it and just place it next to each other and tape it without cutting anything. I like to use some tape on the back, but you can also use some clear tape on the front of the paper. So just place your tape to half of the paper, turn it around, and place your other page just on top of the tape so that it aligns nicely with the other one. So, and this is all. So, and now you can cut your pattern pieces. So now we need our fabrics, and I did not mention before, but the pattern includes all seam allowance that you need, so you don't need to add any. And I will mention how much seam allowance you need in which step. So don't worry about it. I will get into it. So now you need to take your fabrics. I have the outer fabric and the inner fabric here, and you will cut the it's also mentioned on all pattern pieces So you take your Easter basket sides, you cut in both fabrics, as well as the bottom. You will also cut in both fabrics. And the handle I will only cut in the outer fabric. So yeah, now we just need to place it on the fabric and just cut it out. It's helpful to use some pins to just pin your pattern pieces in place to make sure to cut a little bit more precise. And it will also say on the pattern itself how many times you will need each piece and in which fabric, so that it makes it a little bit easier. And now we need our fabric scissors, and we will cut around. Now I have prepared all the fabrics. I have 2 side pieces, I have 2 bottoms, I have 1 handle. I also already have prepared the interfacing for the handle. Here I use the H250 interfacing from Vlieseline. I cut the Vlieseline in the same length as the handle, but I took away the seam allowance on the side. So it's only 6 centimeter wide, so that we iron it on the other sides then, but that you have your seam allowance here and there without interfacing. So now we will cut the volume fleece, and so we place it so that the glue is looking to us, or we can feel the little bubbles and the glue. And then we will just place the outer fabric with the left side on the wadding, so that we're looking at the right side of the fabric. And just placing it where we have some space and just cut around. And we do the same with the bottom of the basket as well. So over here we have a little bit more space. And we place the right side of the fabric is facing you, and the left side is on the glue side of the wadding. So, and we cut just around us here as well. And now we're just ironing on the wadding and the Vlieseline on the pattern pieces. And for the handle I will place it with the left side up and use the Vlieseline that I use with the sticky side that is very shiny and has a glue on it down here. And now I make sure I have about 1 centimeter of each side that is not covered with the interfacing. And now I will just iron it on in place. So we will start with preparing the handle for the basket. So I have left side facing to me with the interfacing on. And what you want to do now, you want to iron the seam allowance that do not have the interfacing into the handle. So about 1 centimeter inside to the handle. And also on the other side. And now you want to fold the handle that the seam allowance is laying on top of each other. You can also pin the handle a little bit in place so that it does not move anywhere when sewing, like this. And now we will top stitch on both sides of the handle. Now we're finally sitting at the sewing machine and we'll start sewing very soon. I have a matching thread. If you bought one of my sewing kits, you have already the thread included. And we're choosing a straight stitch, needle for woven cotton, and for top stitching I like to adjust my stitch length just a little bit, so you can go up to 2.5 or even 3 millimeters. And then you just top stitch close to the edge. And this is what the handle looks like. And now we will move to the inner basket. So we need our inner basket bottom and we need our inner basket side panel. Put your side panel with the left sides up, and now you need a ruler and a pen. I would suggest a fabric pen, but I will show you with another pen to show you a little bit better so that you can see what I'm doing. But a fabric pen is on the safe side so that you will not see it in the end. And now we are placing the ruler and mark a seam allowance of 1.3 centimeters, so 30 millimeters, like this, over the whole length. That makes sewing and the next step much easier. So, like this. Now you have a thin line over here. And now you take your scissors and start cutting small snippets into the fabric. Just make sure that you're not cutting into the line and stop about 2/3 before the line. Just over the whole length, make a few snippets. So, and now you place your fabric right sides together. So this is the left side where you have marked your fabric. And you make it right sides together so that you can see the line here again. And pin the short side over here. And here we will sew a little bit, leave an opening, and then sew a little bit here, where we can turn the basket through later on. And here we sew with 1 centimeter seam allowance. Adjust to normal stitch length again and secure your seam in the beginning when you sew and also before you leave the gap. So we're sewing a few centimeters, like here, and then we secure the seam again with a few stitches and leave an opening, and then we go up to here, secure your seam again and sew to the end. And also here secure with a few stitches, like this. So now it's closed on the top and on the end, and there's a little opening in between. Now we want to add this side of the basket to the bottom of the basket, and to make sewing a little bit easier, we will fold our bottom in half and just mark our quarters. First half of the circle and then the quarters. And we do the same with our side panel. And now we place our circle with the right side up and place the side of the basket with the right side on top. So you're looking on the marked sewing allowance where we will sew then. So the right side is touching the right side, and we will just connect the markings we just made. And then you can add some pins in between as well if you like. And the snippets help that the side panel will lay nicely around the round bottom of the basket already, so that makes pinning and sewing so much easier. And now we will just sew around it like a whole circle with a seam allowance of 1.3 centimeters. Either orientate you on your sewing machine foot and on your lines on your sewing machine, or you can just sew on the marking you made. So, though the inner basket is finished now, it's already looking like a little basket. And yeah, now we will go to the outer fabric of the basket. But before we start sewing, we will quilt a little bit. So I show you how I do that. For our outer basket, we have ironed on the wadding on the bottom and on the side seams, and it's already secure through ironing it on, but to secure it even more and to give the basket this really nice cottagecore look, we would quilt the fabric a little bit. And when quilting, you can do whatever pattern you would like to, and yeah, just draw your lines on the right side of the fabric with a fabric marking, or when you have the wadding, I also used a normal pen and drew the lines on the back on the wadding, and that makes seeing it a little bit easier and you will not see it through. But a fabric pen is otherwise always a good choice, and just draw lines and be creative with it. So as I said, I will mark it from the back so that you can see it easier, and I as well. And here I want a line in the middle, so I just mark the middle of my circle like this and draw one line from there to here. And I will sew quite a big quilting pattern, so I will use about 5 centimeters in between my quilting lines. Yeah, and you can add whatever pattern you want now. You can add just checks, you can add only lines, you can add some waves. I'm going here with one line I found on my ruler that is about 60 degrees, and I would just mark it again with a 5 centimeter gap between. So I don't know if I need one here. No, that will be in the seam allowance. And I would add this same pattern on here as well. When quilting, I like to use a walking foot instead of my normal sewing machine foot, because the machine with the normal foot just transport under the fabric, and when we're using walking foot, the fabric transport underneath and overneath, so the foot is moving with the fabric, and that makes it just a little bit easier that all layers are moving nicely, and that's very helpful when quilting. So I use a walking foot, and I also like to use a slightly longer stitch length, about 3 millimeters. So now we have quilted the side panel and the bottom of the basket, and it looks really nice and squishy. And now we will do the same thing with the side panel as with the inner basket. So we put the side panel left sides up and mark a sewing allowance with a pen. This time we use a 1 centimeter sewing allowance, and I do this just with a pencil again here. Through the wadding, I don't think that you can see the pencil through, but yeah, be careful not to use a pen that can bleed or something, so that you will see it in the worst case from the front. You don't want that. So we draw a line for this seam allowance, and now we will make some small snippets again. Some small cuts that are not all the way through to the line. That helps the side panel to fold around the circle a little bit better. And now we're placing the side panel right sides together on the short side, and we will sew these short sides together, and this time we will sew the whole seam. So we will continue sewing with our normal sewing machine foot, and we will also minimize the stitch length a little bit. And now I will sew with a seam allowance of 1 centimeter. And also here we will do the same as with the inner basket. We will mark our quarters on the side panel and on the bottom piece. and then we will match up the markings and add a few more pins to secure everything in place. And now we will just sew the whole circle again with a seam allowance of 1 centimeter. So our outer basket is finished now, and we can turn it around. It's looking really cute. Just shaping it a little bit. And it already looks really cute in this quilted version. And now we will mark the top of the basket into quarters again. So, and now we will add our handle that we prepared in the beginning, and we place it on the sides. So here is the seam. We place it on the sides of the basket, first on one side, and just pin it in place. And then we're taking it under the bottom of the basket on the outside to the other side and just pin it in place. So it's looking a little bit weird, but we just need to trust the process now. So now we're having the inner basket, and we will also mark some quarters on the top of this one. And now the inner basket is still at the wrong side on the outside and the right side on the inside. And now we're placing our outer basket with the right side on the outside into our inner basket. And we will match up the seam in the back. So the right side of the inner basket and the right side of the outer basket are laying on top of each other. And then we will just attach the markings with each other. And the handle is in between of the baskets now. So just match them up and pin in place. And you can also add a pin in between. This should lay nice and flatly on top of each other. And now we will sew with 1 centimeter seam allowance around the whole top again. So now we have closed the last seam of the basket, and now we will turn it inside out through the opening we have in the inner basket. So now we're just pulling the outer basket through it, and the inner basket as well, so that we have the right sides on the outside. And take your time on it, you don't have any stress. And now you will put the inner basket into the outer basket, like this. And now we will go to the ironing board to just iron it a little bit in place. So now we will iron the edge so that the inner basket is laying nice and flat, and that we have a sharp, nice edge here. So we'll just iron the top of the basket. So now we will top stitch the edge to hold the fabrics in place. And we can use a slightly longer stitch again. And yeah, just top stitch it. So like this, it's a little bit easier for me. We're just giving it a last little ironing, the basket and the handle. So now our basket is already looking really nice and like a little basket, and it's almost finished. The only thing we need to do is to close the opening we have in the inner basket. You can do that by sewing with your sewing machine, just a straight stitch, or you can do it a little bit more invisible with hand stitch. And I will do that and show you how to do that as well. So we have our opening over here, and we will place it how it should be, and just using a little pin and pin it in place. And then we will use a hand seam needle and a matching thread again. And we will start at one end and just trying to secure the thread a little bit. And now we will just go from one side, we will just go in a few millimeters into the fold, and then we go onto the other side a few millimeters into the fold, and just go from one side to the other, and sew a few millimeters here and a few millimeters on this side again. That makes the seam very invisible, and yeah, makes it very neat and professional. And you just seam the whole seam, and then you secure it on the end as well. So thank you so much for following along and sewing this basket with me. This is a really nice gift to add some chocolate, some fabrics, and I also made another one. Such a fast and fun sewing project that is also perfect for leftover fabrics. Or you can just have it as a decoration on your Easter table, or for the egg hunt for the children. And yes, I hope this video was helpful and that I could guide you through sewing this basket, whether you're a beginner or an advanced sewer. If you still have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I try to answer them. And yeah, I hope you can make yourself and all your loved ones some nice baskets now. And please give it a thumbs up and follow my channel for more sewing instructions, sewing tips, sewing inspiration, and also have a look at my other social media. You can find the pattern in my webshop, and the link is in the info box. And yeah, you can also find all the fabrics and sewing accessories in my webshop. And yeah, thank you so much. Good luck. Bye.